guys. We are Matt and Kristen Larson. I'm Matt, she's Kristen, and we're here. Yeah, very excited to be sharing with you a little bit. What we get a chance to share about with you today is the idea of how establishing values in our church and in our family has been something that we've been over the years learning how to do. Like, what does it look like for us to craft values into our kids and into our church? And we've seen a lot of crossover. Like, it's not different projects. It's actually kind of the same project every step of the way. So we got together and we spent some time and came up with 4 things that we found to be helpful in terms of how to craft values into either your church or your home, your family.
One of the things that God settled us on really early on was that if we were going to be called into a church planting story, it was a family story. And so that was kind of been the beginning of us just learning in this journey of kind of how do we craft our family to be on mission together, and what does that mean for our church, also how we're crafting values for our church. So the first thing that God has impressed upon us over the last 15 years or so is that we really have needed to settle with Him who He's called us to be, and that's as a family and as a church. There's so many things that God needs and calls into His kingdom. We can't be all of them.
Yeah.
So settling ourselves and our family around who He has called us to be in this time, in this space, in the community that we're called into has been a really important thing for us.
As a church, what that's done is it's allowed us to set kind of a longer term objective and to work towards that. And in doing that, there are competing values, there are competing missions that want our attention and affection, but we, as she said, we had to settle our hearts that this is what it looks like for us to be Anthem Church. This is what God's asked us to do, and He hasn't really asked us to do everything, although the scriptures do give us that room to do everything. We know that we can't be the best at everything, so we have to trust that what He's put on us is kind of our contribution to the broader church, and that's something that we had to find some comfort with.
I love that idea in Ephesians 2:10 that He has prepared in advance good works that we should walk in them. We kind of had to just ask Him, what are those things? What are those things that you have prepared in advance for us to do?
Yeah.
So the second thing that we've learned is that building values, the most powerful thing in building values is consistency. And for me, in my personality, I would rather do a big splash and get it perfect and right the very first time and have everything go perfectly. And there, we set in a value. Look, we did this thing.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And what God has had to teach me is that small moments over a long period of time build those values so much deeper than a perfect splash of something. And I have to be okay with imperfection, and I have to be okay with things being built brick by brick.
Yeah. It was really helpful early on. Andy Stanley wrote in one of his mini books that you have to say something every 30 days or you'll experience vision drift. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a really helpful tip, but it also reinforced the fact that you have to say something a lot. That as often as you say something, people may or may not hear it. You might say it once, or you might say it 10 times and people hear it once, or you may say it 100 times and people hear it. And so that consistency, even of the message, the language, and just being able to sow into our church and our family, that's why we do this. This is what's important. That's why that just happened, has really allowed us to, like, whatever the values are that we have. And we have values, but that's not the point of this video. The point is we wanted to actually craft those things into our family, and to do that we had to be consistent with our language and over time reinforcing those things.
Yeah. The third thing that God has really taught us is that what we celebrate and the stories that we tell really matter. They can either add to our value system, or they can totally undermine the things that we're trying to make foundations for our family.
Yeah. I mean, typically, even in like a church setting, actually the family one's kind of more fun. The potential is there for us as parents to be like to our kids, all we care about is your character. But then to have the celebrations be their grades and their performance on the soccer field or the lacrosse field or whatever.
Yeah.
And if our celebration doesn't match our language, then we're undermining our entire value system. So we do find that we have to make sure that we're celebrating the things that we've declared to be values in the church and in the home. Otherwise, it's bad leadership across the board, because we are undermining our voice every step of the way.
I think the cool thing with our kids has been to be able to celebrate things that we don't even see fully formed yet, but we see a seed of something.
Yeah.
So when they're young and, they're still rowdy and rambunctious, but we see that seed of kindness, or we see that seed of leadership, or we see that seed of generosity, to celebrate those things and tell those stories over and over again to our kids as ways of actually building that value system into them.
Yeah. And kind of our last one is if something's going to be a value, it's probably going to cost something. It's going to hurt to hold it. Because honestly, if it's easy, it's probably not a value. It's just what you do. But as we've gone through time with our family and with our church, this idea of like the pains and the sufferings that we've had to endure has really forged our values.
Yeah, a while ago, our mentor, Chris and Merrill, gave us some language for that, the pains and privileges of ministry. And we love to celebrate the privileges with our kids. We love to point out, look, God is blessing us. He sees us. He is celebrating even the sacrifices that we've made because of this privilege, because of this thing that has come in. And that's great for their whole view of the kingdom of God. But the things that have really instilled the values in our kids is the times that they've had to endure those pains, the times that they've had to sacrifice. Those things have forged in our family the values that so much faster than 100 privileges could have. So we've really actually been grateful in pointing out the things that God is asking us to sacrifice and suffer through and give up because of something that's more important, because of something that's more valuable. And that's been really cool to point those things out to our kids.
Yeah. We're 16 years into parenting, maybe 16 and a half, and 10 years into church planting. And in both situations, we've gotten to see now the fruit of the long-term investment into those values, the things that we see as really important, the calling, the burden that God's put on us to carry into the world. And I think the joy for us from our perspective now is being able to encourage, especially younger families and younger church plants, to just look at that and say, like, it's worth the hard work of investing now to build values, because they bear fruit in the future. As people grab a hold of those and take ownership of those, you get to see the blessing in increasing measure as that goes on in time.
Yeah.
That's what we got. We're so excited that you guys wanted to hear from us, and have a great day.